Get ready.
Welcome to SestraNow, the caregiving team, and we are topic for today is caring for the caregiver.
Drop a note.
Pardon?
No.
Take it away, Liz.
Yeah, so thank you so much. We're so happy to have the caregiver support team, which is part of our 1,000 Women campaign. It's one of the 10 teams that we have. So we've been doing a lot of financial stuff, so we're taking it back this week with the fitness part of our campaign. And so we're so excited. This is the very first presentation that the caregiver team is presenting. And we have the leaders for the caregiving team. We have Norma here, we have Paulette, we have Winsome, and we take it very serious, the burden and the struggle that caregivers have, and especially during this stress time of COVID. So imagine we're all stressed. So we could only imagine how much pressure has been placed on the caregivers. And so we want you to know that we are here, we're available, we're willing to give support. And so right now I'm looking forward, as women, we're caregivers at some capacity, whether it's as sisters, as mothers, as aunties, and some people have like sickly children or elderly parents to take care of, and some just have small children. It never stops. And so we just take this time now to recognize and to give our love and support to caregivers. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Norma, who's going to be our principal presenter this evening, and just sit back and enjoy. Just let me know, Norma, I'll be sharing the slides, so just guide me and I'll.
Okay, good day, everyone. Thank you very much for that introduction. So she touched on a lot of things that I wanted to start out with. So simply, what is a caregiver? Do we have the screens ready? The screen ready?
Yes.
Okay. Simply, a caregiver is anyone who provides care to someone else. Caregivers can be spouses, partners, adult children, parents, other relatives, friends, or even neighbors. The care provided by caregivers include medical advocacy, home management, medication management, assisting with personal hygiene and care, providing meals and assisting with nutrition, helping with mobility. The list of things that caregivers provide is endless. Essentially, a caregiver is all of us. Is there anyone here who takes care of elder parents and takes them to a doctor's appointment? Is there anyone here who had to advocate more for medical care for their loved ones? Is there anyone here who has to clean and go shopping for their parents or siblings or spouses because they're physically unable to do so? Who has to monitor and supervise the finances of their loved one, including having power of attorney authorizing certain transactions or not allowing their loved ones to do certain transactions on their own because they lack the capacity? Sadly, who has to know what palliative care means and had to watch their loved ones suffer for long periods of time to ultimately see the breath escape them? You are all, and we are all, caregivers. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the topics that we're going to discuss today, including who, what, and how, caregiver testimonies. You're going to hear from two specifically, obstacles faced by caregivers, tips for caregivers, how we can support caregivers as a community, and how our caregiver team will support caregivers. And also we'll provide you with some resources that have been provided from our expert on our team, Ms. Paulette. We'll actually have some time for questions, and there's always time and room to stand, stretch, and take a breath. Next slide, please. So I talked a little bit about who are caregivers, what they provide, and the type of functions that caregivers provide. Now let's just talk about some statistics. 1 in 5, 19% provides unpaid care to an adult with health or functional need. More Americans, more 24%, care for more than one person, up from 18% in 2015. More family caregivers have difficulty coordinating care, up from 19% in 2015. More Americans, approximately 26%, are caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease or dementia, up from 22% in 2015. More Americans, 23%, say caregiving has made their own health worse, up from 17% in 2015. Imagine that. Imagine that here you are caring for your caregiver as best as you can, providing them with the care that they need, and yet it's affecting your own life. Family caregiving spans across all generations, including boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Zers, millennials, and silent generation. And today, one of our testimonies is going to be from someone who fits into the Gen Z generation. So we're very excited to hear from her. 61% of family caregivers are also still working. Can you imagine providing full-time care to your loved one and still have to take care of your own household? However, don't fret, because Ms. Paulette has provided us with resources where we can potentially get paid for taking care of our family givers, but with exceptions, of course. 1 in 8 adults around the world, 6.5 people, are caregivers and have careers. So that's also full-time care, meanwhile trying to make a life for yourself, your family, and still obtaining any type of skills or goals that you have for your future. Next slide, please. So now I'd like to first speak to one of the caregivers on our caregiver team. Miss Winsome, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Miss Winsome has been a caregiver for many, many years. Most of you know Miss Winsome because a couple months ago, Miss Annette created a very heartfelt post about Miss Winsome, because unfortunately her husband passed away. For more than 40 years they were married, and in May he passed away. And she has quite a testimony, and I would like to just briefly interview you so that those who may not know what a caregiver does can actually get real world experience from someone who is a caregiver.
Sure.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So first of all, again, I'm very, very sorry for the loss of Mr. Smith. Before his passing, how long were you a full-time caregiver to Mr. Smith?
Since 2018. Paulette came on this journey with me because I saw the initial, but I was expecting it because his mother had dementia.
Okay.
And all the boys in the family had it before, some of them before they died. So I was expecting it in him, but it came about very, very early and unexpected. And when I first saw it, he was very confused. We were in New York visiting, and I called Paulette, and she taught me through it and let me know that he need to see the doctor. So I've been watching him since that time, and it got progressively worse in 2018, where he was admitted to the hospital, and I don't think they didn't know what was wrong with him, because I just found the package with the thing, so I saw that was the onset of really what was happening, and he was admitted, and they said he had heart murmur, he had a little stroke or something, and then in 2019, that's when everything really started getting downhill. So
Okay.
I've been taking care of him since 2019. Yeah.
19. And what kind of care did you have to provide Mr. Smith, who was undergoing dementia?
Well, I have to try to keep him safe because he was what they call him a runner. Because every time I turn around, he would disappear and they'll find him miles and miles away. I never know where he so the police in 3 counties know him. All they said is, what is he wearing? When I called, they said, what is he wearing? And they go, look for him. And I had to be very vigilant. So that was the care, just to try to keep him safe.
Okay.
Was the first type of care that I did. After a while, it got, I had to do personal care and everything.
Okay. And how did that affect your life, your goals, your friendships, your hobbies,
Well, I see,
providing full-time care?
well, I'm a reader, and I'm a very avid reader, and I used to read 3, 4 books per week, and I was on a book for like 4 or 5 months.
Mhm.
I just finished it the other day. So, I couldn't, that was one of my stressor, because I was, that was what relaxes me, and walking, and I find I was walking more, and I lost the first couple of months, I lost 11 pounds, and the doctor said, that's too fast. I need you to
Mhm.
slow down with that. And I wasn't eating. I was very anxious. I was nervous, and I was crying all the time. Every time I see something else happening to him, I would cry, and, I couldn't really handle that.
Okay. And that's very interesting that you said that. You talked about not only did you talk about the things that you missed, but you also talked about how being a caregiver and dealing with his dementia affected you. So I have a question, like, what resources do you think could have made it easier for you?
Well, all the doctors keep saying you need to be on Medicaid,
Mhm.
because he had insurance and he had Medicare, but certain programs, you need a Medicaid to get the full benefit of whatever he needs to, to get. Like last year, I really needed, the doctor said he's not sending him home unless I have home care. So I had to get home care, and do out-of-pocket expenses for that until the Medicaid hit, because it took me over 19 months to get Medicaid. I applied for it. The answer is that it took me a long time to get that.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you needed resources to help you get the Medicaid. You needed resources to help you so that you could, still enjoy the things that you needed, which
Mhm.
included reading your books. You needed resources to assist with getting him the care that he needed. So
Yeah.
what about you? How did you take care of you during this time?
Well, what I did was I took classes on dementia, how to handle dementia patient, and they told me the stages, and everything. I think I did about 20 hours with the Alzheimer's Association, and with I don't remember now, Care for the Elderly. And I was better to cope, and I had support groups um, that helped me taught me through what the process, as he went through the process, whatever he was going through as he deteriorates. I had people that would call me and support me and tell me what to do and what to expect and how to handle it. So that was very good.
Okay. So unfortunately, now that Mr. Smith is no longer here, are you still a caregiver? Are you still providing care?
Yes, I'm still providing care for my 2 grandchildren.
Okay.
We had temporary custody of them for the last 11 years. I found out
Okay.
that my temporary custody was up 9 years ago, but I'm still caring for them. So the mom is going to be coming to take carry on. She's relocating down here to take over her teenagers. It's not going to be easy. So, but I have to move on from that, because I really don't need to take care of anybody else right now but myself.
And we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Ms. Winsome, for your testimony and overall honesty. I think we can all say that we learned something from Ms. Winsome. It's interesting to me that even though Mr. Smith is no longer here, you're still providing care. And you know what? I think sometimes when it comes to women, it's in us. It's in us to just help. It's in us to support. It's in us to care. But as you'll hear over and over again during this presentation, it's also very important to take care of you. And
Yeah.
as I will continue to say throughout this presentation, we are here for you. The SestraNow's caregiver team is here for you, and we're here to support you. And we will continue to support you even as you care for your granddaughters. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So we have another testimony from a 19-year-old caregiver. As mentioned previously, Caregivers come in different ages, they come in different genders, and she will talk about, how most of her day is spent caring for her parents. And there are times when she lacks so much. And there are times when she was away at school trying to get her education, and yet she was still emotionally and mentally drained out of concern for her parents, which were miles and miles away. Because one parent is recovering from a stroke, and the other parent is recovering from fracturing both of her knees. And one of her siblings has diabetes at a very young age. So I'd like you to please, Annette, if you can play the video now. We don't hear any sound.
We still don't hear the sound.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Annette, I'm sure you're working on the sound, the audio.
Okay, I didn't know there was a problem with the sound, so let me stop share. And
Oh, good afternoon. I'm so glad that you are available to speak with me. I'm going to be doing a presentation on caregivers for SestraNow. And I think people oftentimes assume that caregivers are older and they're taking care of older, whether it's parents, spouses, friends, any type of loved ones. But I wanted a different perspective because you're rather young. How old are you exactly?
I am 19, 20 next month.
Are you currently in college?
I took a break because of the pandemic. I plan on going back this fall.
And how long have you been a caregiver? Are you full-time or part-time?
I'm a full-time caregiver. I've been giving care professionally for the past year and a half too, but my parents are older, so I've been giving them care practically since my teenage years began.
And that's interesting that you said that professionally. What does that mean, a professional caregiver?
So the program that pays me is a CDPAP program through the state of New York. And pretty much I get paid through my parents' insurance to take care of them and pretty much do what I've done on a daily basis just to make income from it.
Okay. And how has providing care affected your life or your goals or relationships?
I feel like I put my parents first to a lot of things. I won't say that I missed out on any opportunities or I have regret towards it, but I did feel like when making a lot of decisions, what their, like, I guess you could say, status and or how they would be when I'm away was always the first issue in my mind. So especially if it was fresh out of a hospitalization or if they just got off of being sick, it was always just a little bit nerving, I guess. My relationship with people, I feel like I tend to have a lot more knowledge in the medical field. Like they'll say things that, I experienced 2 months ago and I can be like, oh, use this to make yourself feel better. Or pretty much going forward, you should stop doing this just because of the I guess you could say, background that I have with my parents. But I do say that it's very time consuming. Most of my days will be filled with doing caregiving for them, both of them, if not at the same time. So,
When do you get free time? Do you get free time to hang out with your friends? Do you get the ability to be a 19-year-old?
At times, yes. Usually we'll try and work something out. If I know that they have doctor's appointments in the morning and they're going to be resting afterwards, I'll try and make sure that if there's any plans that I do want to take part in, I'll go ahead and make those plans for when I know that they won't need me as much. It's a lot of compromise and knowing your patient, because at the end of the day, that's what they are to me also.
But they're your parents. So doesn't that make it a little different?
You always want to keep their best interest in mind, which also has conflicting views, because if it was just patient and caregiver, it would be more straightforward than parent to caregiver, which is also daughter. And of course, it's not like they can just shut off their perspective of me as their daughter. So it's always fun. That's always an area where we, have some situations in.
How do you take care of yourself?
Personally, I know that I lacked a lot in the first part. A lot of it was like I work about 45 plus hours a week for both of my patients. So at first it was just getting through the day and going to sleep at night. But now I try and make sure that whatever downtime I do have, especially if it's early in the morning, I try and work out. I try to make sure that I monitor what I'm putting in my body, because that's very important. I've gotten face masks, just little things to like keep up, this beautiful glow or whatever. Just little things that make sure I, made myself smile at least once a day, because I think that's the most important thing.
And I guess the last question is, you are also a part of SestraNow. You're not part of any of the committees or anything, but I'm a part of the caregiver community or the caregiver campaign. And I was wondering, how can the community support you as a young caregiver who's responsible for 2 patients and or 2 parents? How can someone support you? Not necessarily your parents, but support you, so that we can make sure that you're okay, that you don't feel overwhelmed, that you have time for yourself, and that the community can support you in those days when you just feel really, really tired. How can we support you?
So luckily, the agency that I have offers mental health. They have a therapist link in their app that I can, if ever feeling overwhelmed to the extent that I need to speak with a professional, I have one handy in my caregiver app. But overall, I know that some agencies offer income plans where you either get with benefits or without. So I think that in itself is really helpful, because if you're like me, I'm a college student. If I didn't live with my parents, or let's say later on down the line when I live on my own and I still do caregiving, I have the option to not be under their plan, but receive health insurance for myself, which is also very helpful because,
Okay, we can jump to the next slide. So as we heard from Miss 19-year-old and we heard from Miss Winsome, caregivers often face many, many obstacles. Yes, let's go to the next slide. And these obstacles include burnout, isolation, stress, financial burdens, physical and emotional distress, sleep deprivation, resentment, depression, blame and shaming from their own families or families of the person cared for. Imagine taking on the responsibility, this heavy burden of taking care of someone, and you don't have the support and no one's assisting you, but they have the ability to critique you. That must be really overwhelming and annoying. They also face the lack of privacy, hopelessness, lack of support, feeling trapped. Just imagine the responsibility that's piled on the caregiver each day, the load that they constantly have to bear. Caregiver burnout is a state of physical, emotional, and mental exhaustion. Stressed caregivers may experience fatigue, anxiety, and depression. For isolation, caregivers feel isolated as they often feel cut off from the outside world. Their whole entire life is spent taking care of someone else, and they don't have, as a result, the time or energy to take care of themselves. Financially burdened. I know the 19-year-old talked about various, the program where some caregivers can actually get paid, but there are exceptions to that rule. And oftentimes caregivers are unpaid. They're taking time and resources away from their paying jobs or unable, let's say, to get extra hours because all those hours are spent taking care of someone else. And as we all know, stress not only affects you physically, but it not only affects you emotionally, but it also has physical manifestations of that. For a caregiver, they're often an automatic caregiver. They're in automatic caregiver mode. And as a result, they oftentimes neglect or fail to see, wait a second, I haven't showered in a while. I haven't slept in a while. Wait, this thing is feeling strange. But because all of their thoughts and all of their care is provided to someone else, they often neglect or fail to see what's happening with themselves mentally and physically. A study found that 22% of caregivers reported that their health got worse. Remember, we talked about that earlier, as a result of caregiving. For those who care for those suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, the emotional stress is reported to be even worse. And the list goes on and on. Hopelessness. I will never have my life back, and I'll always be a caregiver. And my remaining quote unquote good years would be spent caring for someone else and not myself. Lack of support. And this is where members of the community and the caregiver team endeavors to change, the plight of the caregiver by providing support to caregivers. Because if you think about it, the doctors and all the medical professionals are already caring for the people who are cared for, and who's actually caring for the caregiver. And that's the whole point of our presentation and what the caregiver team would like to provide support to those. Next slide, please.
I'm trying to move it. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
You have to go back out and come back in.
So here are some valuable tips for caregivers. Miss Paulette of the caregiver team used the phrase, and we've all heard it when we're on a flight, put on your oxygen mask before helping someone else, meaning you cannot care for anyone unless you care for yourself first. So these tips center on self-care, which includes checking in with yourself every day, seeing your doctor often, making physical and mental health a priority, reducing personal stress, communication is key, accepting assistance, staying connected with yourself, remaining organized, acknowledging your loved one's limitations, organizing or participating in a caregiver support group, acceptance. That means accepting that your loved one may not get better, or accepting that your loved one may need help that far outweighs whatever qualifications that you may have. And also nonstop learning learning how to care for yourself, learning about different methods of care available to the person who's being cared for, and learning that, you know what, maybe I can't handle this. Maybe there's a better way. And as a result, reaching out to those who can provide you with the resources and or the information that you need. Next slide, please. And these are different tips on how to practice self-care. Let go. We're jumping slides. Let's go back. Self-care. Yeah, that's fine. Let go of guilt. Be kind to yourself. Join a caregiver support group. Spend quality time with friends and family. Stretch and breathe. Listen to music and dance. Prioritize nutrition and exercise. Laugh as much as possible. I remember when I was freaking out when I was taking the bar exam, and there was a song by Kirk Franklin, Smile. And every time I thought I was going to break down, I just put on that video, and it literally just made me feel so much better. Talk to someone once a day. And when we say talk to someone, you're not talking to the person who you're providing care to. You're talking to someone else. You're talking to a friend. You're talking to a stranger. Sometimes the best advice I get is from strangers. Talk to anyone who you can just let them know how you're feeling without necessarily even needing a response to how you're feeling. Ask for help, rest, say no. Say, I can't handle this anymore. Ask for flexibility at work, i.e. FMLA, which may provide you with some ability to not necessarily, I'm an attorney, so I have to be careful what I say. FMLA is available to certain people who they'll give you some time off without being paid, and where you can actually go back to your job. I know I really just botched it, but pretty much that's basically what FMLA is. Keep a gratitude journal. Always find good, always find a blessing in the day. Reduce caffeine intake. Treat yourself to a mani, pedi, spa, facial. The 19-year-old talked about doing mass. Do whatever makes you happy, so that for that little bit of time that you have free, that little bit of time that you don't have to caregive, you're giving it back to yourself. Make time for hobbies. Ms. Winsome talked about reading a book. It may have taken her months to finish, but she ultimately finished it and did it. So we're thankful for that. Play with a furry friend, read books, create self-love mantras, seek professional help, pray often, and fellowship at church. Next slide, please. Still putting your oxygen mask on first. Carebridge, a caregiver support group, offers 9 tips to help put the pep back in your step, and 25 ways to care for yourself, which will allow you to provide the best possible care to your loved one while providing self-care. These include learning to communicate effectively, acknowledging your loved one's limitations, being realistic, learning how to provide physical care, be open to new care methods, take care of you. That should be even bigger. Take care of you. Accept help from your community, your family, and friends. Stay connected with the outside world and get organized. Next slide, please. Communication. One of the tips mentioned, like I just said, was communication. Remember, we communicate in various ways, including verbally with gestures, changing our moods, and even our facial expressions. Pay attention to the caregiver in your lives. What are they communicating? Maybe it's time to step in. Maybe it's time to care for the caregiver in your life. When I was a caregiver, some of you may have saw my Facebook post. I was stressed out. I started to lose weight. I started to lose sleep. That was what I communicated to the outside world. But were you watching? Were you looking? Were you noticing, wait, this person may need help? For the 19-year-old, she stopped calling her friends and reaching out to her loved ones. Under both scenarios, we communicated that we needed help, but we never opened our mouths. We were stressed, and maybe we were even depressed. Pay attention to what's being communicated by your caregiver. And in this slide, we're talking mostly, this slide talks mostly about communicating with medical professionals and what's needed for loved ones. But let's not forget that the caregiver also is communicating what they need. And we should all as a community try to pay attention to these things. Next slide, please. These are more tips for caregivers. Be realistic with yourself and the one that you care for. Are you able to provide care? Does your loved one need expert care that you're not capable of providing? Can you handle the caregiver role? Is it too much for you? Is caregiving affecting your family and your future? It may be time to be realistic and ask for help. The next tip is never stop learning. As the 19-year-old said, she has learned so much from caring for her parents. I remembered recently she called me and I had to tell her, I'm so proud of you, because she had to advocate for her parents. Her dad was in the hospital. Her mother is unable to walk. It was during the pandemic, and the hospital had a one visitor rule. But how is her mom going to be able to get around if she can't walk? And no one, this is during the pandemic, wanted to be that close to her. You had to wear masks. So she had to reach out to a social worker and say, irrespective of the one visitor rule, I need to be able to not only bring my mother in a wheelchair, but I need to be able to push her to my father's hospital room so that we can visit, thereby disregarding the one visitor rule. And she did it. And she did it seamlessly. And I was so proud of her. And I told her that, because as a 19-year-old, these are not things that you usually have to deal with or usually have to consider. But she learned that, you know what, it's better to ask than assume that I can't do anything. Because prior to that, her mom had to use the wheelchair and push it herself as a brace to go and see her husband in the hospital. And the last tip was, again, about self-care. I don't know why it's coming out a little blurry on the screen here. Next slide, please. I think this is one of the most important tips too for caregivers, is to accept help. There's some family members and friends and members of the community who are here to help you. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to receive help. That's why we're here. It may be as simple as, I'll stay here for an hour while you go take a walk. I'll stay here for 45 minutes while you go get a spa treatment. Ask for help and receive the help and accept the help. Next slide, please. Finally, and also very important, the caregiver should get organized. My grandfather, my abuelito, used to always say, what is that term he used to say? It was, prevention is better than cure. So as much as possible, get organized now. Consider all the documentation that you need now. Consider all the important decisions that you may have to make for the person you're caring for now. Let's see, for instance, some of the legal documents may include a will, healthcare proxies, living wills. Consider how you're going to pay long-term for care, whether there's long-term care policies are available. I know there's a couple Sestra experts here who may be able to tell you more about long-term care policies. I know they're expensive, but they're helpful because they allow you to finance. So let's say, for instance, that your loved one needs to go into a long-term care facility, nursing home, or anything like that, or even seek care at home by a professional. Speak to your loved ones about the kind of care that they want before, let's say, for instance, they undergo dementia and lose their capacities, whether you should be considering a nursing home, home care services, or in-home or outside hospice care. Next slide, please. And this slide talks about how to support the care, how to support caregivers. You can provide caregivers with physical and emotional support. You can demonstrate empathy by listening. I didn't say giving advice, just listening and sharing, irrespective of whether you agree with the caregiver's feelings. Have the difficult discussions with the caregivers, like whether this role is too much, whether it's time to escalate to another medical professional, or whether it's time to escalate and unfortunately put your loved one in a home. recognize the various obstacles that were previously discussed, and recommend a support group. Remind the caregiver to take some time for themselves or take them out. You know, I remember one day I was in Long Island and I knew about a caregiver and I just brought her flowers. And she was like, "What is this for?" And I'm like, "Because I was thinking about you and I wanted to make you smile." Think about the caregiver in your life and what you can do and how you can support them and how you can support them and not necessarily the person that's being cared for. I remember when, before Mr. Smith ultimately passed away, Miss Annette reminded Winsome, "It's your birthday coming up. Go get a spa treatment for your birthday. Go ahead and do something fun, something you enjoy." And that's exactly what Annette was providing to her, caregiver support. And I think this is just something personal to me. Separate the caregiver from the one being cared for. I remember, again, another post that I put on the SestraNow Facebook page was about when I was a caregiver full-time for my husband. And everyone kept asking, "How is he doing? Oh my goodness, I can imagine what he's going through, all those surgeries, you know, is there anything that he needs? Is there anything that I could provide to him?" And it got annoying because it's like, what about me? What about me? I'm the one with the 4-year-old driving her hours to go see her dad and planning parties and rehab facilities and having food delivered because he hated the food. Just ask a caregiver, how are they doing? And I'll tell you, there was one time someone did that and I burst out in tears because I had never experienced that before. So, you know, wherever possible, endeavor to support the caregivers in your lives. And that's what our team is all about. Next slide, please. So here are some resources that are available to those who provide care. Most of these, not most of these, all of these were provided by Miss Paulette. Miss Paulette is from Jamaica, the West Indies. She has been in the healthcare field for 27 years. The only reason why she's not doing this presentation, even though she created this whole thing for us and provided us with some of the resources, is because she's having a problem with her vocal cords right now. But she's nonetheless here. If you have any questions, you can say them verbally as well as put them in the chat, because she's here to provide us with her years of experience. She worked as a school nurse in various hospitals in New York City, the Bronx, and White Plains. And she's been a case manager and has been brought in direct contact with caregivers and support systems. So if you want a resource, I can just put Miss Paulette's name here, but there are other resources here as well. For instance, the Visiting Nurse Service, they provide home health, hospice, geriatric, virtual, and respite care. Caregiver support services include case management, community collaboration and outreach, and mental health, LGBTQ, and family services. Our 19 talked about her CDPAP, she said it so brilliantly, I don't know, CDPAP, which allows certain caregivers to actually receive financial support. They basically get paid for providing support to their loved ones. But again, there are exceptions. It says that they're paid either via Medicaid. I believe the 19-year-old said it was paid through her parents' insurance. Not sure what that is. And there's certain representatives, including mothers taking care of children under 21 years of age and spouses who are not eligible for this service. But the more you know, it's out there, it's available. There's also, you can consult your social worker, your patient advocate, and case managers in your state or your country's hospital for assistance. And you can contact the various, but I guess specific disease organizations for assistance or resources. So whatever your person who's being cared for is struggling with, there's some sort of organization that probably, you know, has a lot more resources and information that they can provide to you, so you can provide the care that you need. Next slide, please. So Miss Annette will talk about something that we're planning. The caregiver team support group is planning in order to support our members and those in the community.
Yes. I just want to say, like, I'm sorry, I'm coordinating the slides and this, and I'm so engulfed in the presentation you're making, and I'm so like, wow, impressed. So, thank you so much. But I just want to let you know that, you know, we have our 5 teams. We have the fitness teams and we have the financial teams, and under the fitness teams is the caregiver support team. And I just want to say that the women in the caregiver support team are so amazing. And even, you know, somebody like Winsome, who has gone through, she shared her story, but we've also been able to experience coming together to, you know, to support her. And Norma, who's the lead of the team, we have 5 leaders, but, you know, Norma sent flowers to Winsome after her husband passed. I mean, she's just so giving and generous. And we made sure that Winsome was able to go to the spa. You know, those are the kind of things that we've been able to do for each other. And we look forward to being able to provide support. And so the caregiver support team is just that. It is about making sure that we have a space to provide in whatever way. And, you know, we have 100, as part of the 1,000 Women campaign, we're trying to reach out to 100 women. So the thing that we're trying to start up now is we'd like to launch a support group. So where, like a chat, you know, a virtual chat once a month or once every 2 months. We have to figure out the particulars, but that is the next thing that we want to do, because even being able to talk, you know, Winsome talked about being able to talk to people, being able to vent, and even Norma said, like, that made such a big difference to her, where people stopped to say, well, how are you doing? And you know, and it's amazing how these women who are caregivers themselves were so willing to give of their time and to help the community at large. So we really ask that you take advantage of that, and that's what we're trying to do with this network, is really provide tangible, concrete, measurable support for women in all areas of their lives. So that's the next thing that we're trying to do. We look forward to people that would like to help in any way. We appreciate those people who post. We appreciate those people who reach out when people share how they're feeling, the way you respond and stuff like that. But we look forward to getting, you know, being able to reach more women and to help more women. So thank you so much for being so awesome. You know, it's great that we have you know, Norma, who's an attorney, you know, she was just so willing to do whatever. Okay, you want me to do caregiver support? I'm there, right? And but we also have professionals and experts like Paulette, and so it's such a blessing. And thank you thank you for all that you do. So that's it. Okay, now to share back the screen for the last slide, please bear with me.
And at this point, we can just take any questions that we have right now.
Okay.
If we have any questions.
From Facebook Live, we have someone that I would love for you to reach out to, Norma. I put it in the chat. Her name is Jondelyn Reese, and she's, I guess a lot of this presentation resonated with her. She says, yes, I did that with that song. I literally was fighting for my life, trying to take care of him while losing me. And I'm missing some of the comments here, sorry. So she's saying that basically she wants to connect with the team. She's like, wow, I'm her. I take care of my dad by myself. I guess referring to the 19-year-old. And yes, I felt all of this without support, all of that's on the list. She said, I had a nervous breakdown last year, which caused me to seek counseling and take meds now. Yes, I did that with that song. I literally was fighting for my life while losing me. So if you guys could please reach out to Jondelyn Reese. I put her name in the chat about the resources and basically joining the team for support, you know, and so that she is aware of when we launch the support group, where we can all participate in that and just lift each other up. This is what SestraNow is about. So, you know, that's from the Facebook chat. So we are touching lives. Thank you guys so much for all that you're doing.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. I don't think I do.
So
Right.
what is the program? Because Princess mentioned in the comments that there's a commercial where, and I've seen that as well, where you get paid to take care of your loved ones. Is that part of the resources that you shared? And I'm going to ask that page, that slide, the resources that we can share it as
Yes.
if you guys can share it as a post in the group as a follow-up to
Yes.
this workshop. But what is that called? Is it
It's
a particular
called Freedom Care. It's called Freedom Care. And the only reason why I know that, because it's so catchy, the commercial, and my daughter sings it to me, my 6-year-old, freedom, care, will care for you. So yes, that's an example of that. I didn't realize that that was available in different states, and it's a federal program. Thank you, Ms. Paulette. I didn't know that. So that's the New York version of the federal overall program. So for New Yorkers, they have Freedom Care, but you would have to reach out to your local Medicare, Medicaid providers and see what services are available in your state and or country, because I know SestraNow is international as well.
Thank you.
So we're coming right towards the end of our time.
Yes.
The last slide, I'm having a hard time. But if you could just walk us through it.
Yes. Miss Paulette, and all the members of the team Caregiver is all about self-care. So Miss Paulette wants us to take a break. If you can, stand up, stretch, and take a deep breath. I am almost 9 months pregnant, so I will not be participating in this activity before I go into labor. So I'm just going to sit here, but if you can, take a breath, stand up, stretch. Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I needed that because I'm stressed because I'm messing up these slides.
No, you did a wonderful job. And finally, we're here for you. SestraNow's caregiving team is here for you. Our members include Miss Paulette, Miss Winsome, Miss Anita, Miss Davita, Miss Jojo, Miss Annette, and myself. We're so very thankful for you participating and listening to our workshop today. And please contact us if we can support you and the caregivers in your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. And just
Yeah.
see, the wealth and the love that we're giving our sisterhood, our network. And, thank you for doing your part, because the whole idea is if we each bring something to the table, our talents, our gifts, our time, that is what's going to make our network more effective and let's all lift up together, all level up financially, emotionally, physically, in all ways. Thank you so much. I just want to give a little pitch. Next week's workshop Wednesday will be about stock options. It's going to be given by one of our SestraNow youth, Gabriella Gill. So we hope that you come and tune in. And after that, we're bringing back Integrate Your Plate. We're going to be traveling to Jamaica. Then we're going to be learning how to make their national dish, ackee and saltfish. And we're going to close out the month with just the risky versus safe or conservative investments. So we want to make sure that you're balanced, that we are fit both financially and physically. And we just invite you along this journey as we move up together. I know I personally have been extremely enriched by associating, Stephanie and I are the founders, but we get so much more than we give.
Yeah, yes.
Because we're receiving from all our angles. Okay, go ahead, Stephanie.
Don't forget, we have the ongoing challenge. I think we're halfway through it. You guys can join in anytime. It's 90 days, 5K, right? 90 days to 5K. I've been in and out of it, but I'm back. And Aisha from the physical fitness team has been posting every day, you
From the
know,
weight-
so if
I'm the weight loss team.
the weight loss team, so you can join in on with that with us every day, even if you don't jog, you know, do the jogging part, just do the walking, because we're there every day. We're going to do some type of physical fitness, some type of activity where we can all do it together. Okay. Thank you guys so much for this awesome presentation. And Jondelyn Reese says it's awesome, and she's looking forward to one of you reaching out to her. Okay.
Carol put something in the
Amazing.
chat. I think Carol put something in the chat for the 19-year-old.
Okay. All right. Good night,
Hey,
everyone.
did you
Wait.
do it, Princess?
No, Carol put something in the chat before you close. She wants to give the 19-year-old a personal lifestyle JBL system for listening needs. So she wants to know where to send it to her before you close the chat.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Carol's part of our savings team or debt reduction team?
Savings team.
Savings team. I mean, you women are just so amazing. Thank you so much. This is what it's all about. So we'll get that. I'll be in touch with you, Carol, so that we can, and Norma, so that we can get that to the.
Thank you, Carol.
So
That's awesome.
Woohoo! Great presentation, guys.
Awesome, awesome, awesome.
Thank you.
SestraNow. Woohoo, we rock.